Hello everyone, my name is Sam with Child Support Game Over. As many of you already know, we do have a book called Child Support Game Over. If you'd like to get in contact, if you're interested in the book, get in contact with Troy at csgameover@yahoo.com. Today is a very important video, guys, something that is extremely powerful. Spot on. I'm going to show you everything. I mean, this is not coming from me, guys. I'm not a lawyer. This is not a law firm. Don't construe anything that I say to be legal advice. What I'm about to give you is facts right from their mouth. Okay? You have to pick up yourself, do your studies on your own, and come to your own conclusion like I'm going to do for you now. But the reason why this video is so powerful, guys, these courts don't have jurisdiction. They're not even really courts, and I'm gonna prove that to you here today, so please pay close attention. A lot of you know that in Section 8 of the Federal Child Support Enforcement Manual that you can find online, it says no judge of a court can preside over these proceedings. Okay, pretty point blank, right? So not a judicial officer can preside over these proceedings in regards to Title 4D services. What they've done is created what some people call an Article 1 court, which in other words is a legislative court, which you can see here on the screen. Now this is finelaw.com. What are legislative courts? Please go through and read it. I'm not going to read the whole thing for you. I'm just going to get to the valid point that I'm trying to make. How are legislative courts different from constitutional courts? So constitutional courts are Article 3 courts, okay? Article 1 or legislative courts are not. Right here, as you can see in blue. These courts then are not constitutional courts in which the judicial power conferred by the Constitution. If you go in and read this article, excuse me, it's referring to Article 1 courts or legislative courts are not constitutional courts. What does that mean? It means that if you go in with a constitutional argument into these legislative courts, these Article 1 courts, they can't hear it. Okay? They're not going to hear it. They don't have jurisdiction to hear it. It's a waste of time. Okay? But the key here, they are not constitutional courts. Now, I have guys I talk to on the phone say, well, Sam, they use this case here and this case here, and they can pick and choose when they want to, because they have the ability to follow another case, a United States Supreme Court case law or appellate court case law, but they don't have to. They're not required. They're not bound. They're not a creation of the Constitution. They're a creation of legislation. That's why they're called legislative courts. They're not bound to the Constitution. It says it right here. And if you read the case of American Insurance Corporation versus Cantor, you will see exactly what I mean. Now, with that being said, guys, you have to understand, when the Title 4D agency is bringing you in for any of their services, okay, so that's paternity establishment services, that's support order services, those are all done by a legislative court, okay? Those are all services. Here's something that's very important that Troy and I have been talking about for a few years now. This is 45 CFR 301.1. These are the definitions used or created by the Office of Child Support Enforcement. So it applies to you, okay? You go down and you read the definition of political subdivision. Means a legal entity of the state as defined by the state, including a legal entity of the political subdivision so defined. And they even say a political subdivision can be a prosecuting or a district attorney or a friend of the court. What they're saying, guys, is, and if you go down, and I'll go a step further, if we go look at the definition of state so that you can really understand this. State means the several states, the District of Columbia, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Guam, and American Samoa. Let me ask you guys something. Is the District of Columbia a state? Is the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Guam, American Samoa, are they states of the United States of America? Absolutely not. Of course not. So let's go back and read this again. Political subdivision means a legal entity of D.C. as defined by D.C. Okay? They just defined what a state is. So D.C. is not a state. So now, political subdivision, that's referring to whatever state you live in. Okay? If you live in Wisconsin, as I do, it's saying Wisconsin is a political subdivision of D.C. These people are not operating under what they like to say state or local laws. They are operating as a political subdivision for whatever Illinois or Texas or Kansas or California is only a political subdivision of the state. So when you sue these people and they're trying to claim some kind of Eighth Amendment state immunity, they don't get that. They're acting as a political subdivision of the state. State meaning the District of Columbia. Now, what is the District of Columbia? The District of Columbia is, for one, it's not a state. It's not a state. The United States government is a foreign corporation with respect to a state. It's a foreign corporation, people. It is not part of the United States of America. If you do your research on this, the District of Columbia has been trying to gain statehood for a very long time. They're not part of the states, the United States of America, the states of the Union, which conform the United States of America. It is foreign. Washington, D.C. is foreign to the United States of America. So their courts, or their alleged Article 1 or legislative courts, are trying to obtain jurisdiction over you, but who's trying to obtain jurisdiction over you? Right here it says it on the screen. Remember, District of Columbia is not a state of the United States of America. So if Wisconsin is trying to gain jurisdiction for Title 4D services, they're doing it as a political subdivision for a foreign corporation, which, guess what, guys? That doesn't exist, right? Corporations don't have political subdivisions. Okay? Political subdivisions, if you can look up that phrase, is not what a corporation can create. Confusing, I know, but so truthful. Now, the Office of Child Support Services. Guys, if you don't know the services they provide, they're right here on the screen. Anytime you go into a so-called Title 4D courtroom and they're trying to perform these services that you see right here, those are services coming from a foreign corporation so that they can profit. They pay what they call the political subdivisions money to perform the services. It's that simple. As you can see on the blue here, we partner. Listen closely, guys. We partner. This is coming from the Office of Child Support Enforcement, guys. It's right here. Okay? This is a federal website. Word for word, I'm going to tell you what they say. We partner with the federal, state, tribal, and local governments. How does this statement that I just said prove that they're foreign? They're saying, we partnered with the federal, which is the United States Corporation. They partnered with them. So, how can the Office of Child Support Enforcement say that they're a federal agency? They just say, here, we had to partner with the federal government, the so-called federal government. So think about that, guys. If you go back into the definitions here, 45 CFR, and you go to the definition of office, what does it say? It means the Office of Child Support Enforcement, which is the separate organizational unit within the Department of Health and Human Services. So they're separate. They're foreign. Now, how foreign they are is they operate under the Hague Convention. Please, guys, we've been preaching that for years. If you haven't heard about the Hague Convention, please do. Every state adopted the Uniform Interstate Family Support Act, which was created or drafted by a unincorporated association, which is a business. It's a private business. Created the Uniform Interstate Family Support Act to operate the Hague Convention in what they call your political subdivision, which is Wisconsin, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Illinois, California, New York, Texas. They're saying those are political subdivisions. So guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope that you understand this powerful note. If you need any help in your efforts against these people to get out from underneath this corrupt foreign corporation, please contact me at csgameover2@yahoo.com. There's a lot more to this. I just don't want to make this video too lengthy, but it's pretty self-explanatory, guys. If you look at their definitions, understand what an Article 1 or a legislative court is. It is not a constitutional court. They do not recognize your constitutional rights, okay? We have to challenge the personal jurisdiction. Now, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I recommend don't attend. Don't attend from day one. If there's a guy out there that knows he's got a woman pregnant or something like that, they're going to try to come after you. Do not go. And then challenge. They're going to default you with a support order. They're going to perform their services. But after that default, you have the option to challenge that default order for personal jurisdiction. Okay? They're going to claim they have subject matter jurisdiction no matter what. It's a subject matter jurisdiction. They'll say, right here's the code or the statute that we're using to bring you in. But you got to understand, it's just a foreign corporation. They're trying to get personal jurisdiction, your consent, for you to participate. That's why in each state, if you are paying support, so-called child support, they're saying you are a participant, that you participated in it. You consented to it. But that's how they're claiming you're a participant. Sometimes they'll get men to enter into a contract of some sort, or an agreement, or a consent agreement, or a decree of some sort. That's consent as well. But the jurisdiction, the personal jurisdiction, must be challenged. We must stop walking into what we call their kabuki theaters, or some other people call them kangaroo courts. We have to stop going in there, because I'll tell you what, they're not going to recognize your constitutional rights, your God-given inalienable rights, your fundamental right to the care, custody, and control of your kids, like, the cases of Troxville versus Granville. They're not going to recognize that because they're not bound to. Now, I understand that they take an oath of office. These so-called court officials, okay, these so-called judges, I call them people in black robes, because to me they're not judges. But when they're operating in the capacity in the legislative court, you're not in a constitutional court. They don't recognize none of that. They're bound by statute, their codes, their writings, their doings. They're not subject to the Constitution. So please understand that and study what I showed you here. Very powerful stuff, guys, and I'm here to help. So again, my email is csgameover2@yahoo.com. Have a good day, everybody, and have a good weekend and study hard.